Hey, Warwick.
G'day, Coxie. G'day,
Everybody's going to
listeners.
know that this is a joke today because I don't have a boss, or you're certainly not my boss.
Thank goodness for that.
I know. Can you imagine me working for a boss full stop?
That'd be
Doesn't
the
go
funniest
very well.
joke of the world. Yeah.
Yes. All right, here's my joke. My boss told us about a customer who had complained about an employee with bad posture.
Right.
Have a hunch it was me.
Welcome to the Tradies in Business podcast with your hosts Warwick Didwell and Nicole Cox. Divert your phone and grab a brew as Waz and Nic unpack tips, tales, secrets and stuff-ups from guests both inside and outside your trade, helping educate and inspire you to break the cycle of gut-busting and money stress and create a true trade business.
Boom, boom. Righto. Not one of your finest, Coxie.
Oh, come on.
That was a great dad joke, that one.
Even our guest has chimed in. All right. And on that note, we're going to welcome our guest to this episode. Nat, it feels a bit informal, mate, based on your background and where you're sitting and even some of the pictures I can see in the background there, mate. But welcome to the show, Nat.
Thank you very much.
From Master Plumbers.
Nathaniel Smith, the full name, but I go by Nat. This makes it easier.
We don't want to trigger you, mate. Not this early in the episode. We'd like this to go for longer than 7 seconds.
That's cool.
All right. So, Nat, can you tell listeners a bit about who is Nathaniel Smith, perhaps when you're not in trouble, and how did you come to be having this amazing opportunity of talking to Waz and Coxie at Tradies in Business podcast, mate?
Well, a bit about myself. I obviously grew up in Lane Cove and Epping as a young lad. When I, in year 11, actually, I did instead of doing a 2-unit course, one of the other subjects, I did basic skills in plumbing at Meadowbank TAFE, which was back then it was called the JRPP course. That was back in 1996, so it's probably changed about 5 or 6 times in the last 20 to 30 years. Yep. Did that and then decided I wanted to do an apprenticeship. So at 16, I started off at a company called NSW Plumbing, who are members of the Master Plumbers.
Nice.
Just put a plug in there. And I worked there for about 2 to 3 years. And then they were a maintenance service company. Then I went into construction with Great Holt, who are quite a large Tier 1 company. Did a lot of big jobs around Sydney, the Conservatorium of Music. I looked after the ships in the Sydney Harbour during the Olympic Games. Do you remember those 7 ships? I did all the plumbing up to them. Ran a few big jobs. Then after I left there, I did some commercial plumbing. And then in about 2005, I set up my own business. Ran that for a while. In 2008, when I was working on a job, I nearly lost this finger. It was severed and hanging off.
Nice.
At the time, it got quite a bit of attention because another little part of my life that I was involved in was in the Young Liberals, and I took my father in the running in the Parliament. He was then Shadow Attorney General in New South Wales, then Attorney General. Oh. And on the day I cut this finger, he sang a song in Parliament about giving back our Epping Road. It was about a tunnel. And so that got, very much a big attention on 2GB and all that sort of stuff. And then there was like, we hear your son has cut his finger. Oh, he's cut his hand off. It was like the whispers
got worse and worse.
So that was on the radio as well. And I was in Westmead Hospital getting stitched up. Anyway, when you run a small business, you are the small business. You take all the risk and all the reward. I was back a couple of days later because I had guys working for me. I was stitched up, totally against doctor's orders, and I was getting on with it and pressing ahead. So I did that for a number of years, and then I got an offer to work for a PR and marketing and government relations company called Hugo Halliday. I switched careers around 2010. Which my parents said I was absolutely insane because I was doing quite well in the plumbing game. And I said, I want to look at doing something different. We acted for a whole range of clients and industry organisations, big companies such as IAG, some pretty big players, corporate players. So I switched careers in that time. I did a grad cert, a grad dip, then a Master of Arts in Organisational Comms at Charles Sturt. Did that for about 6 years, and then I went and ran a federal senator's office for about a year. She was a minister for international development in the Pacific. Then I was a senior advisor to a New South Wales planning minister, because I was between that time there, I also got elected to council at Cogra City Council, so I knew a bit about planning, and I worked for a lot of developers when I was in the lobbying game as well. So I knew quite a bit about planning and the issues and how it affects councils and communities and things like that. Then I got elected to Parliament in 2019 to the seat of Wallandilly. Then eventually, under Dominic Perrottet, when he became Premier, became Government Whip. So I was in charge of discipline and running the Legislative Assembly. And then unfortunately, in the March early this year, I had a 12% swing to One Nation, which ripped out some of my primary vote. And the Climate 200 candidate got about 80% of Labor preferences and beat me by 1%. So then this opportunity came up, and head office didn't do any polling because they thought I was safe as houses. It was one of those ones that I was working 20 hours a day, signage everywhere, didn't take anything for granted. And during those 4 years, it was pretty tough. We had the drought when I first got elected. Then we had bushfires in Wallandilly. We lost 2 fireys from Horsley Park. Then we had floods, and then Picton, as you've heard in the past, flooded quite a bit. And we had floods down the Highlands. Then we had COVID, and COVID was really tough in my electorate because it was half it was Greater Sydney and the other half was regional New South Wales. So you had different rules.
Yeah.
My job was a nightmare during that time. And then we had floods again, then COVID again. And then we had that unfortunate accident that happened last September. We lost those 5 kids at Buxton, at Picton High. So it was a pretty full-on 4 years. And now coming into this, it sort of seems it's a lot of work to do in an organisation like this. And we're rebranding the organisation. We've got a new website. A lot of things have been done the way they were in industry associations for many years. So we're turning this place right around. And now I'm here.
That's an incredible story.
It's when you tell people, they go, "Oh, wow, you've done all that."
It's a lot of experience in, look, I'm banking on us being about the same age here, Nat. It's a short period of time to have such a breadth of experience.
Yeah, well, 43, I just turned 43 and...
okay, so, I can align with 43. I'm going to go with 43
yeah,
now.
You just run with that, Coxie.
I like 43. That feels good to me. And
so I did, obviously, an apprenticeship, got my license, ran my own business, worked in some other fields, then did a university degree, did a master's while having 2 kids and babies, waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning, working full time, and then going into other different avenues and then running myself.
Nat, how do you stay on the straight and narrow? Like, how do you stay on the level through that sort of a journey?
I think obviously, I've got a good family life, married with 2 kids. I come from a pretty good sort of stable Catholic Christian family. So that's helped me a lot with, just keeping my head on the ground. Mm-hmm. I think, you've got to obviously listen to people too. You got to keep grounded. And I think that's one of the issues, I think, when people do go into politics and things like that, people start telling them how wonderful they are for years and years. And after 20 years, they actually believe it.
Yep.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of fakeness. There's a lot of, and I'm not really one for that. When when people start crawling to me, I go, okay, what do you want? I'm pretty blunt. Yeah.
Which probably serves you well. Sorry, Nat. Probably serves you well coming into the role that you're in and working in a trade association and working with trade business owners, essentially.
That's right. Well, I've been one. I've acted on behalf of industry associations in terms of advocacy work. I've done the master's degree in organisational comms, which comes into marketing and PR and all that. So it's molded me well for this position. And knowing all the members of parliament, because they used to crawl to me to get pairs so they could get out and not being in the chamber that night, helps now with dealing with them.
I bet you got some stories to tell.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got some stories.
I bet you do.
They're only for off air, I suspect, mate.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because when I was we didn't have a majority. So it was like gluing things together. And one of the months, which was very challenging, was a retiring member, I won't say who it was, decided that they won't be turning up to Parliament this month because they've got a course they're doing overseas.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't have a pair for that person. And if I had a pair, the Independents Labor Party could have got together and changed standing orders and made a chaos for 2 weeks. So what I did is that person used to sit next to me. I'm probably giving that person away now. And so I used to stretch out question time and take up the space. So the opposition whip was counting and didn't realise that there was something missing. And I did that every day I came in. The premiers, I was going, we got away with it again for another day, you know. I got away with it for 2 weeks.
Wow.
I had no idea.
Skinny your teeth stuff.
Yeah, it was little things like that. And that, so you got to think fast on your feet and be a bit nimble and just have a good poker face.
Absolutely.
Okay, I suck at a poker face. That's why I did go into politics.
Yeah. Nat, so you've been in the trades or in and around them for, I guess, quite some time. Obviously, you know, recent times you've stepped aside from that with your other roles and politics. And now you're very much back into the trades in your new role. How, if at all, has the industry changed since your time?
Oh, it's changed dramatically. You know, when I talk to the trainers here at the Master Plumbers Association of New South Wales, just to give a quick intro on it, obviously it's an association that's a union for employers, plumbing contractors. So we advocate for them, we give them services, they get members' benefits out of being a member and things like that. But we've also got our training arm. So we train apprentices here. So they've either got the option of going to TAFE, other independent bodies, or our RTO. And a lot of those apprentices are our apprentices that we employ through our GTO, which is Master Plumbers Apprentices Limited. So I'm the CEO of both MPA and Master Plumbers Apprentices Limited. So we keep them employed, we train them. And I've seen some huge changes in the trade, like in terms of silver brazing, welding, oxyacetylene doesn't happen much anymore. Everything's B-press, crimping.
Yep.
When I was getting out of the trade around 2010, that was starting to come in, and now it's just everywhere.
Yep.
The use of heat pumps and other things that have come into the game has made it easier, but it also presents new problems as well. So, and sometimes I feel that when I was studying in the trade, we did things like mechanical services. They got rid of that in 2008. And I think that's going to be a bit of a problem for the future because I don't know if the apprentices obviously are learning a hell of a lot in the new 2020 package for their training for TAFE. But having those other courses that we did back then, like mechanical services, taught us how to think, how to work out how boilers work in large buildings. Yep. I think some of that's getting lost. So we've got to be careful that, you know, we have plumbers in 20 years that when they go to a job somewhere to fix up this plant room, they're going to go, who knows how to do this?
Yeah.
And that's some of the issues I'm seeing in the trade that I think we need to bring it back a bit, go a little bit old school occasionally. I know that sounds, I'm 43 saying you've got to go a bit more old school, but I think that needs to be done from time to time. You've got to look at how we did things back then and what we were trained to do. We're trained to think. And sometimes now, especially in construction and in your bigger tier one organizations, it's more like Lego, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I absolutely agree that is happening. I see it every day with the apprentices that we deal with. And I see that it's not plumbing specific. I think it's all trade specific, sadly, because of the, well, I don't want to be too speculative, I guess, but the way the industry has changed as a whole, and there's a stronger push towards project style builders, those tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 construction companies. They have a particular formula that works and serves them very well. Unfortunately, it doesn't necessarily serve the tradespeople moving through the ranks, so that we do have really well qualified, multidisciplined tradespeople. Instead, there's a real tendency to find tradespeople that are very good at a particular style of task within their trade. They don't have broad knowledge of all of it, sadly. It's very hard to find employers that are able to contribute to the full skill set. Even as the mum of an apprentice, we really worked hard to ensure that our son, who's an apprentice carpenter, went to work for a renovation builder instead of a new home builder, because it changes what he's able to do. The skill set that he will come out with is very different than if he was working only on new homes. So I feel that in construction, full stop, as trades, this is a real trend that we're seeing, and it does need to make some change. I just wonder, from an organisational point of view, Nat, what do you think you can do that can contribute to some of that change coming about in a short term, not a long term?
I think, obviously, when we have reference groups with TAFE, with Customer Service New South Wales, or used to be Fair Trading, it's changed names a couple of times, is to give that sort of feedback back. Like, we're seeing a lot of changes in some of the other states around Australia. There's been I think, an unnecessary push to electrify everything. I believe there's been a general attack on gas. I'll be writing an article in our next magazine about it, which I will have a bit of a swipe at the current federal government, and particularly the ACT government, who has now banned all new gas connections from November onwards, which is just absolute insanity. I think you would have heard that comment in my piece in The Australian a few weeks ago. But the reason is we should be promoting hydrogen, biogas, and other renewable gases to come into the system. We shouldn't just be cutting off so we've seen governments do that before when they cut off an industry. Yep. It ends up being a disaster. I remember a thing called the Greyhounds, many years ago. That really did cause a big stir when you try and shut something down overnight. And something might look good in detail and sometimes on paper, like, feel good, but when the rubber hits the road, and I've experienced this as a policy advisor in government, something might really look good as a policy, and then all of a sudden they entered it into their CAD system at Masterton Homes and said, oh, this policy doesn't work because we can't use our 330 square metre home, which is our most popular choice. Yeah. And you're like going, oh, no, but the department says you're wrong. Like, and this is where you got to really test things out. And like, I bring up that gas example is because it's all good and well to try and electrify single homes with heat pumps and solar hot water heater and things like that. But when you're getting into large buildings, say student accommodation, unit blocks, commercial, you're talking, you need much more plant room space, which is taking up more square meters in the building. And, shutting off something like gas, which is 50% cleaner than burning coal, to run electricity to that building. So it gets a bit like a Yes Minister episode. Like the Euro sausage, where there was an argument where the farmers, the United, where is it, in Brussels, they paid farmers to make surpluses of food. And then in the other office, they were paying farmers to destroy those surpluses of food. And then the guy from Brussels says, oh, no, it's not the next room, it's downstairs,
Yep. And we watch these programs as sort of the general population and think, oh, yeah, that's pretty funny. They're taking the mick. And I think the sad reality is, for anyone who's got some inside knowledge, is it's legit.
Yep.
And probably worse than that. It would scare most of the general public. And unfortunately, and you've spent quite a bit of time in politics, obviously, Nat, but, that short-term nature of tenure, and also the the division between decision-making departments. We have all these different departments that are making decisions, and that they don't have that generalist view. And I think that almost goes back to that whole training conversation that we were having, where we're ending up with people who are very specialised in particular areas of the industry, and so they're not cross-skilled, which means they're not able to make those broader decisions about what's best because they don't have the breadth of knowledge or experience to be able to do that. And as an observer, I see the same thing happening within our public sector and certainly within politics. So I guess when it comes back to the training, and we hear lots about, the skills shortage and problems with apprenticeships nationally, not just obviously within New South Wales, but what's your take on, I guess, that whole narrative around this skills shortage and what we need to do to actually improve that?
Well, I saw a great advertising campaign in New Zealand. I don't know if you've seen it, where the son, the parents are like, I think there's something's happening, something's wrong with him at the moment. And he goes, Mum, Dad, I want to be a tradie. And they drop their coffee. I don't know if you've seen that. It was a 3-part ad. And it was like the father was an accountant going, why do you want to be a tradie? Don't you want to go to university like me with a flowing gown? And it was really well done. And it went it was like that double AMI ad with Rhonda.
Yeah.
And it was like a story. But what it showed was being a tradie, is a great job. Yes, once you're getting paid to train. With an apprentice, people go, apprentices don't get paid much. They're training. You don't get paid to go to university and become a lawyer or a doctor or a teacher. Yep. And you're getting paid to train. And once that's completed, then you become a tradesman. And then once you own your own business, you're not a plumber anymore, or a carpenter or an electrician. You're an entrepreneur. You're a businessman or a businesswoman. So, and that's, I think there needs to be more of a promotion of that by the government. And in school, saying, there's always this great push to get them to university, There's kids in year 11 and 12 who should not be there. They should be one of the things that we have scope to offer here at the Master Plumbers Association and MPA training is a cadetship where they do their whole Cert 3 in 18 months, full time. So they'll do their theory and their practical in 18 months. And once that's completed, they come out halfway through second year. Now, they are the SAS of apprentices. They've done all their training in 18 months, and they could probably do that at the end of year 10. When they don't have their license, they can come to our college, do their training. By the time they're finished, they've got their Ps. And they are a high-quality apprentice because the great thing about them is you're not sending them off to TAFE each week. And then they're ready to do their Cert 4, which is at night in their own time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I've got long memories of. And Rod Jackson, who's the field officer here at Master Plumbers, was my teacher.
Oh, wow.
23 years ago at Meadowbank. So how the spins and straights and roundabouts in life, you end up being back with someone that
so true.
Years ago.
Hey, tradies in business, Waz here. Sorry to interrupt your listening pleasure. I'm joined by Coxie, of course.
Hello.
You may not know this, tradie or tradie wife or whoever you are listening to this program, but we're business coaches. Oh my gosh, that feels weird to say. But we do actually work with people just like you to solve a bunch of problems. And we have this fantastic program called the Tradiepreneur Program, and that's how we do it. And we do it with a wonderful community of trade business owners who are all trying to fix or improve or change things to progress. Things like getting behind on quoting, Coxie.
Feeling overwhelmed, behind on your invoicing, feeling really stressed or frustrated about the money stuff. Sometimes you can pay the bills, sometimes you can't. What about staff? Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my gosh, staff.
Trying to get them to do what you want them to do, if you can even find them in the first place. There's so many struggles.
And we've seen clients tackle these things in their trade businesses in quite a short space of time, to be honest, during the program, and recruit staff at a time where everybody was saying you can't get good staff. improve their quality from their team, collect their debts much more quickly. We have sessions.
Tips?
Yes. Getting tips, yes. So people rounding up, customers rounding up the invoice by hundreds of dollars because they're so happy with the sales process and the experience of dealing with the trade business owner and their team. So some amazing stories from our clients. But, you know, as they say in the commercials, don't take it from us. Hear what some of our clients have to say.
Coming into Christmas, we are not worried about money. We've got enough money in the bank to pay everybody's leave. There's work booked in for the new year. And for the first time in a long time, we'll be having 3 weeks off and not worrying about the business. That's probably the biggest win of all.
Using the cash flow forecast, I've been able to look into the future and see where I'm going to be situated financially. And it's actually started to have a huge bearing on whether or not I make purchases.
By far, one of the best things about working with Nic and Waz are the other businesses that are working alongside them. It is amazing how empowering it is to be working alongside like-minded people who have similar goals, similar troubles. We can all relate to each other, and everybody helps everybody out by figuring out problems with you that they may have faced previously. Everybody has solutions and constructive feedback, and it's an incredibly friendly, warm, welcoming environment, not threatening at all.
From every job, I know that I will get a sustainable wage that's industry leading. I can have at least 10 to 20% profit, and I can pay taxes, super, all of that, and I do not have to question whether or not I can because of the way that it's been built, and that is thanks to Traders in Business and what they've taught me and what I've learned.
So there you go. There's some real people. We did not pay them to say those things. And I think that sounds a lot better than Coxie and I reading them out. We really would love for you to check out more about how you could take your trade business to where you would like it to be. Surely you have a vision of what things could be like or what you wish they were like on a day-to-day basis, whether that is reducing stress or actually making more money. Maybe it's spending more time with the family, taking more holidays, having the choice that you really wanted when you started your business instead of this beast that seems to be there for many of you listening to this program. So if you want to find out more about how we do this through the Tradiepreneur program, Coxie's going to tell you all about it.
I'm actually not. I'm going to be really secretive and keep all of our magic up our sleeves. What I would like you to do, though, is head on over to tradiesinbusiness.com.au and you can learn all about us, why we do what we do, and how you can work with us, what that actually looks like. There's a whole bunch of free stuff there for you to download, lots of options. We've always got new stuff going up onto the website and a great place for you to learn a whole bunch more about how you can work with us. You can even book a 15-minute chat.
For free.
Free.
That's how abundant we are. So head over to the website, check it out, book a chat with us, and we'd love to find out if you'd be a great fit for the Tradiepreneur community and start hanging out with some of those people that you just heard from.
I think, Nat, to speak to that point, I feel like the trades still get a really bad rep. In fact, Warwick and I work really hard with lots of people like yourself to try and raise the voice of trades in Australia. And yet you still see media very responsible for this. Unfortunately, the thing you see in media generally about the trades is how another big builder has gone down and what that means for families. Or we see how the tradie that's ripping off the grandmother, or we see the tradie, there's the narrative that they're always late or they're going to rip you off. And I think that's really responsible for a lot of how parents, just like you're talking there with the family in New Zealand, that how they feel about kids going into the trades. And we tend to see, as in my case, the kids have a builder for a father. Several of the kids have gone into the trades. You know, it's a natural progression. We're all trades. My father's a tradie. My brother's a tradie. The kid's dad's is a tradie. His father's a tradie. You know, it's just that natural progression. Yet it's not necessarily being opened up to others because of this negative narrative. And I wonder if you have a view on how to change that narrative.
Well, it's a stigma, and people will sometimes go, oh, like, you know, I had it. One of the biggest hurdles I had in getting into Parliament, they're going, oh, but he might have a master's degree, but he's a tradie. He's an ex-tradie. And it's that sort of snobbery
Yeah. It's like it's a slight on your character.
It's a slight on your character. It's like, well, hang on, I ran my own business and worked hard. I used to fill out BAS statements every 3 months.
Yeah.
When did you do one of them? And you're making laws on them. And that's, you got to give it back to them sometimes.
Yeah.
Because you just can't have, not everyone is going to be a lawyer or a doctor or a teacher. They just don't, some people just don't have the personality or the temperament because it's not within their nature to do that sort of thing. Or, in life, they might go into it later on, like I've done things, after, when I had my own business and things like that. So I think it's a stigma thing. That's why you need to have a positive campaign. Governments need to run positive campaigns to get more people into trades. Talk about, hey, you can actually earn a good living when you're and you can be your own boss and you can employ people and you can get that joy out of helping another family by employing them and seeing them do well and pay them more above the award if business is obviously going well. Because you want to keep good staff. So I just think we've got to have more of a positive outlook. Yes, there's always going to be a couple of bad eggs in the barrel that do the wrong thing by clients, but that's in every industry. That's in everywhere you go.
100%. Yep.
That's in every, you're going to have bad doctors, bad lawyers, bad teachers, bad dentists, trying to get extra money out of, going into nursing homes and ripping dentures out, and you hear of stories all the time on a current affair of someone who's taken the piss basically, and trying to make an earn out of it. But you're always going to have that, but I don't think that should be a negative. And as you said, the husband's a builder, and the generation of kids coming through have taken up an apprenticeship. Like I wasn't exactly, my dad was a QC, an SC, so I didn't exactly follow in his footsteps.
No.
But mum and dad always said, we don't care what you do in life as long as you're happy and you're honest and you're good to your family. That was their view.
So they didn't drop their coffee cup when you told them you wanted to be a tradie?
No. Well, my grandfather on my mum's side, he was a mechanic in World War II in Kokoda.
Wow.
And he was asked to be in the, I think it was the 9th, that legendary story, and he said no. He was asked to be a sergeant, and he said no, I want to keep doing my engineering. And so I wouldn't have been here if he went on that. And my dad's father was a salesman in timber and all that, and he had a timber mill down in Goulburn, and we came from pretty humble beginnings. And there's nothing wrong with what you do in life as long as you do it well and you're good to other people.
Nat, I'm going to have a crack at connecting some dots up here, so you might have to be patient and broad-minded with me, mate. But we're talking about, the bad rap that the trades get in Australia quite a lot of the time. And I've spent time, my family are all tradies, but I sort of did the university thing and studied business and went into accounting and finance and that sort of stuff for years. And I see a big difference between the behaviour of the individuals within an industry, between some of those white-collar professions and some of the blue-collar professions. And I think it's almost just an absolute given that if you're an accountant, you'll belong to a professional association. In some cases, it's compulsory. It's been mandated by governments, If you want to hold a license, you must belong to a professional association. And it's just interesting that within the trades, though, it seems that it's very much an optional thing. And people are like, oh, should I, shouldn't I? I don't know. What do I get? What do I get if I actually join the association? And I just wonder if you could speak to that. And obviously you're in a slightly biased position, mate, and feel free to give the sales pitch for Master Plumbers. But do you think that's a real thing? I mean, that's my perception, but do you see a similar thing?
Yeah. In different parts of the trade, obviously in the construction industry, especially on enterprise bargain agreement companies and on certain construction sites, you have a lot of unionism and they have to show their card and be a member of the union. For sure. But that's still optional. And you've got obviously in associations like ours, some people may feel that they're too busy and they just don't have time to be involved in the events of the organisation, and doing everything fine by themselves. But then once they look into the benefits of what they get joining the New South Wales Master Plumbers, until they've tried it, they don't know. So, and we don't just run courses here. We're going to be having some other courses coming up, some shorter courses for upskilling for plumbers, but also business courses. They could be working, 15 hours a day, 6 days a week. So I've got no time for anything else. I'm just working away. And if they did some of these courses, they could be saving 20 grand a month.
That's right.
So you don't know until you put your feet in the water. Yeah. And I do know about, my wife's an accountant, so she's in the CPA, which is thousands of members. That and he really, the guy who set that up, really marketed that well when he had a side show on TV and he was giving financial reports every week on the television, and the numbers went through the roof. And I think there should be more connection to associations, and you saw that many years ago. I even think with political parties, Liberal Party here in New South Wales probably got a little bit under 10,000 members. Labor Party's probably the same. Back 50 years ago, it was 50,000 members. Years ago, people were more involved in associations, and you saw that even at university. More people were in clubs and things like that. And I think because there's so many distractions these days, we live in a 24 media cycle. People it's just in and out. Like, I don't have time to read that. People have got less time, and they're too distracted. And if you aren't reaching them on this, they're not buying the newspaper. They're not, they're getting their news on TikTok and social media, and it's disappointing, but that's just the way the world's moved.
How do you counter that, Nat?
You counter that by giving them something, and that's some of the things I'm working on here hard on the Master Plumbers, that it's not a grudge purchase like insurance. You want to become part of an association, so you're part of a family. You've got others that can help you out, and you can ask others for advice. You could have legal issues where the organisation can help. Financial resources, discounts on, fleets of, like we do a discount on Toyota discount fleet. When they join up the Master Plumbers, they can get 3,000 off their Hilux that they buy for their business. So they've already paid for it, for that purchase. So, and we've got corporate partners that's going to give them discounts on things, and with their insurances and fuel and other things that we can do through our corporate partners that we advertise with. And that's the way I think to get them. If they know they're going to be saving a buck, it's going to help them run a better business. I encourage them to join up, because that's exactly what will happen.
Yeah.
Now, how does an organisation like yours stay in touch with what the people want? How do you equate? There's a balancing act as an organisation around what with your experience is beneficial to someone, and then those business owners, they have feelings around what they think they want at the very least. How do you stay in touch with what they think they want, and then how do you make the decision about what's going to serve them best?
So it's sort of drawing up your own. I did this in my master's at Johari's window, where this is what we think we look like. This is what others look at us. This is what we actually look like, and that is what we're going to be doing a lot more now that I'm on board, is having reach out and happy calls with people and finding out what members want just over a phone call, and then entering that into a CRM or a client management system, and having that knowledge. But you've got to do obviously regular surveys to see what members want, but then you've obviously got to get people to complete that survey. So you're only getting a snapshot.
That's right.
But I think it's through direct contact, having events and asking them, what do you get out of the Master Plumbers, or what do you think we can do better? And you've got to have that critical, you've got to be able to take the criticism with the praise and go, okay, we could be doing that a lot better. And looking at what other states are doing, that are doing different to us, that is working. So obviously we're in a rebuilding stage, a rebranding stage here in New South Wales. We're going to shock the hell out of the members in the next 6 months with the amount of events that are going to be happening over the next 12. They're going to go, what's going on here? And, we're really stepping up with the advocacy work as well, especially on the gas issue. We'll be having some things to say on some of the new IR changes that are coming up. You've basically got to make yourself that they need you. But They don't just need you for the resources they're getting out of you. You're their head guy. You're their head guy or girl going up the government and saying, us plumbers, we want this. You're moving legislation that's going to be catastrophic to our industry.
Yeah,
and it's working with the other. I had lunch yesterday with the National Electrical Contractors Association CEO and met up with the union 2 weeks before. I met up with Master Builders the other day, and it's building those synergies and working together to get great outcomes for the industry.
Yeah, we all need a voice, and unfortunately, we don't have one solo. We need those collaborations to have a voice together for us within the industry. Nat, do each of the master plumbers in each state, do you all run together, or are you running separately in your own individual way? How does that work?
We've got a federal secretariat, but each division runs their own race, but we do meet regularly. We're hosting a face-to-face meeting of the Australia, New Zealand. So it's Tasmania, ACT, Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland, WA, South Australia, and New Zealand. So we all work as one. And so when we make representations to government on certain issues, we all pile in together and help each other. And we help each other out as well. Like, hey, what are you doing with this? Are you offering your members this service? Oh no, we didn't do that because that was too complicated. Like you can bounce things off each other.
Sure.
Yep.
So some things work better in other states than others.
Yeah. And is that degree of separation because the laws are different in each state? Like that's something we rub against quite frequently, the differences?
Not really. It's sort of where the organisation was formed.
Got it.
We go back to 1881. When you go back, our honour boards in my boardroom go back to 1886. But we've found evidence now. I think it started, the Master Plumbers, New South Wales started around in the 1880s, at some point. So I've been told there's another honour board that we don't have in our possession. It's down in Berrima, in shops there. I'm going to be investigating that on the weekend. So and see what they're going to. See what they'll hit me up for if I could take it off there. But apparently I've heard there's another honour board that exists. But if you go in our boardroom, I've got all the history going all the way back. And I think that's important that members see, the history. Because when you look on these honour boards, you see people who won the gold medal in 1960. Oh, he started up so-and-so and co. And so, and that company's now been going for 50, 60 years, And they were in a boardroom similar to this, 60, 70 years ago. And it's I'm a bit of a history buff. History was one of my favourite subjects at school. I love history. And it's just funny it's eerie when you look at this is the way they did things back then. Yeah. And there's so much tradition. Like I just look at my office in the cupboard over there. It's got the minutes going back to, I think, 18 something. 1926, I can see. And that's all the meetings from years and years ago.
Now, I'm going to ask you a bit of a leading question, mate. Do you think that's being lost, that reverence for the roots and the past and tradition? Do you think that's being lost with the successive generations?
Absolutely. I'm a big one for youth preserving tradition. Yes, I'm a constitutional monarchist, but and I will be smuggling a picture of King George III into the boardroom shortly between the Australian and New Zealand flag. It's gonna be a bit of a trigger warning.
We used to sign a waiver as you come into the boardroom.
No. I'm just gonna sneak it in there and people go, what?
Why do you think that is? And do you think it's just us older blokes clinging to the past, as some people think of it, or is there something more to it, Nat?
I think it's not older blokes clinging to the past. I think we've got to have respect for what people have done before us. I respect my grandfather fought in World War II. My great-grandfather fought in World War I. Like we honour Anzac Day, we got to honour those who have done great things before us. And what some of these awards we have at our industry dinner are named after people who changed the way we did plumbing, 30, 40 years, 50 years ago, and did great things, like setting up GTOs, group training organisations, and things like that. And what I really admire about a lot of those who were executive committee members or board members of the MPA or MPLA is it was all voluntary. They did it in their own time. The industry did so much for them in terms of creating wealth for them. They wanted to give something back. And I think there's unfortunately, we live in a world now where it's more about ourselves, not about others. And I think that needs to. I think sometimes you do need certain points in time. I'm not saying you need another world war or something like that, but you need a catalyst in society to go, hey, we've got to go back to the way and treat people the way we used to, And I think during COVID and through the COVID, I think that sort of taught people a lot about themselves as well, and looking after their neighbours and really, like when they got those freedoms taken away from them, when they got them back, it was like, oh my God, we're so lucky for all we have. Just like dropping into your next door neighbour, you couldn't do that.
That's right.
It was, or even going, a lot of people, especially elderly people and more senior people, just going to church or going to their, their usual Country Women's Association group, or it could be their men's shed. They couldn't do that. And that really hit them hard. Especially Anzac Day, the fact that they couldn't march for about 1 or 2 years. That was the one day those guys looked forward to every year. They saw their mates and they spilled many sacrifices with them, whether they're in Vietnam or Korea, or a lot of the World War II are not with us anymore. But, and that's why I think tradition is important. It needs to be kept, and something that, I'll be, pushing forward.
I'll be there with you, mate. Matt, I've got a question I'd like to ask our guests. I might have just lost myself a few fans, but I might have gained a couple as well. Mate, if you had 1,000 trade business owners in a room, what's one piece of advice you'd like to leave them with?
Look after your staff. Train up your apprentices as well. Because there's so much competition out there that, you can, if you don't treat your staff properly, you can lose them. Join your association. Depends, whatever. Yep. I think I'm doing a bit of a sales pitch here, but no, I'm not. I'm saying join your association and mix with other contractors, find out ways that what they're doing that you haven't been doing, which could change the dynamic of your whole business. It's only when we connect and network that we learn things, because sometimes we're stubborn in our ways, and this is how I do things, and you become institutionalized. And I think the more you get out and meet other companies in the similar trade and work out what they're doing, what they're using, what's worked for them, that could be something that the catalyst that just turns your business into a good business, into a very profitable business.
100%. Leveraging the knowledge that's out there, that collective intelligence. So love that, mate. All right, if we've got New South Wales listeners who happen to be plumbers and they want to find out more about Master Plumbers, what's the best way for them to do that, Nat?
Well, the best way is here's our new branding, our new logo.
It's a great logo. I was very impressed.
Yes, it's nice. All new. It's
nice pipes, mate.
The pipes are there. Obviously, you can go to masterplumbers.com.au or ring us on 8789 7000.
Love it, mate.
That's 8789 7000, or even come into Unit 1 of 13 Stanton Road, Seven Hills, and check out the college, and we can make a cup of coffee for you and have a chat.
This is very impressive, Nat. That's very smooth. Well done.
This is the service I used to supply when members of Parliament came down to the Whip's office. Coffee made for them.
Would you like a coffee? Yeah.
And even when it got a bit later at night, occasionally, I'd offer them. The Labor Party had an alcohol ban, so it was a 12-year-old apple juice on the rocks. We called it.
I quite like my apple juice on the rocks. Thank you.
And this was done because I think Chris Minnsey brought in the ban when they were in opposition. I don't know if the ban's still going, but a lot of opposition members came down to my room, and I said the whip's office. What happens? Whip's office stays in the whip's office. It's like the Vatican and the Italian state, so it's separate.
Neutral ground.
But you got to have a welcoming presence. You got to make people feel comfortable, and then they'll open up and talk to you about things that they would normally talk to you
That's
about.
right.
So,
good tips for our employers out there, mate. They can learn a thing or two about that and the energy between them and their team members instead of treating them like a resource.
So true.
yeah, they're not a number. You can't treat people as a number.
That's right.
And I think you saw that more. I saw that more in construction. It was the conveyor belt.
Yep.
Can't have that.
Absolutely. Love it, Nat. Well, mate, thank you for your time. You are no doubt a busy man, and I'm sure we could talk a hell of a lot more and have you share a lot more stories. But if any of our listeners are thinking about joining their association or they've ever thought about it, perhaps stop thinking about it, go and take some action. And we'll make sure we put all the details for Master Plumbers New South Wales, for New South Wales listeners, of which we have quite a large number. So no excuses. Nat's shared all the deets there. We'll put them in the show notes. Nathaniel Smith, thank you very much for your time today, mate.
Over an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Nat.
Thanks, mate.
You've been listening to the Tradies in Business podcast with Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Find out more about today's guest, tools for your trade business, and other cool stuff at tradiesinbusiness.com.au.